Hello, my name is Dave Capillari, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about C2 medical robotics. So here at C2 Medical Robotics, we're trying to solve the problem of lower back pain by using robotic technologies, by making it very low cost and economical to both the patients and the surgeons. So back pain is very common, with 75 to 85% of people in the US actually experiencing back pain at some point. In fact, there's over 3 million cases per year in spinal disc herniation in the US. So this is when the disc material in the spinal column is pushing out on the nerves, which can be very painful. So many people end up needing surgery because of this condition. The most common type of surgery that they undergo is lumbar discectomy, with over 350,000 cases per year. So as you know, robotic surgery has been emerging for various procedures with increased patient outcomes and surgeon comfort. So it would be ideal to be able to apply this types of robotic surgery to this very common procedure. However, the existing systems, robotic systems on the market today are very expensive, and they're also very big or too big for the small workspace of the spinal column, which is only about a cubic centimeter. And the existing instruments are very rigid and non-articulated, and it's very hard to be able to replicate the precise, delicate movements you need for this type of procedure. Now, if you look at the market for spinal, worldwide spine market, that's estimated to be about $10 billion. And if you drive down into the minimally invasive discectomy devices, it's estimated to be about $500 million or so market size. However, I think it's actually a lot larger than that. If you go back just a little bit, from December 2018, you can see Medtronic bought Maser Robotics for $1.7 billion. Maser Robotics makes a spinal surgery robot, which is just a surgical guidance robot. It just tells the surgeons where to place the instruments inside the patient. It doesn't actually perform any surgery. Then a little more recently, if you can see that Medtronic also licensed some technology from Titan Medical, which is on their robot-assisted surgical systems, and a $31 million licensing deal to perform some kind of laparoscopic type of operation. So you kind of see that the market is kind of moving in this direction. And if you consider our system that we're developing to be able to bring in about $1,200 of revenue per case, and if you consider the 350,000 cases per year in the US, just a 5% market share would yield about $20 million in revenue. So what we've come up with is the robotic lumbar discectomy system, which you see here. This is a patented system, which has a low-cost articulated disposable surgical instruments, along with a robotic cannula, which is teleoperatively controlled. So the robotic cannula houses the instruments, and they can move the instruments independently, translating in and out of the workspace and also rotating around their axis. It can house multiple tools at the same time inside the workspace. We've developed two tools so far, a articulated nerve retractor and an articulated grasping tool. The way we can make these very low cost and cheaply is using multi-material 3D printing for end effectors and some innovative smart material actuators. And everything is tendon driven and teleoperated, usually using a joystick or push buttons on the instruments themselves. And so we've done a number of kinematic tests, range of motion tests, and fatigue testing for our instruments so far. And we have some lab scale prototypes of all the components. So if you look at where our system compares with the traditional ways that this procedure is done, you can compare it against open surgery, microendoscopic discectomy, and arthroscopic microdiscectomy. And you can see that our RLD system meets or beats all of these other techniques in almost every category. And we can also highlight it's the only one that is robotically controlled, teleoperated. It's the only one that is disposable. You don't have to re-sterilize it. It's also very low cost. And all the existing surgical robots for spine are designed for different procedures out there. And they're typically just limited to robotic guidance systems for tool placement. And our system actually is compatible to these and actually complementary to these systems. So the next steps, we kind of think of them as three phases, three stages of where we need to go. First, we need to kind of refine some of our actuation systems, do some biocompatibility testing, and really work on a kind of integrated prototype system. Then we're going to move to more of a commercial prototype, maybe add some new instruments to the mix, and then finally we'll move to kind of clinical testing and FDA approval and submission. So we welcome opportunities to collaborate, industrial partnerships, and also investors that can help us kind of move this to the next phase. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Xu Li. I'm an associate professor of biomedical engineering here at Purdue. And I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Rescue Biomedical. We are developing a novel technology to automatically deliver life-saving antidotes in emergency situations. The problem we're trying to address is the opioid overdose, which has claimed more than 750,000 lives in the US alone since 2000. You may also be familiar with someone who's been affected by this already. More recently, fentanyl, which is a synthetic opioid, has really fueled this epidemic with more than 2/3 of opioid deaths now related to fentanyl. And the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has really compounded the problem with limited access to medical care and support for these patients. So as you can imagine, opioid overdose happens very quickly, and these patients are often found alone, unable to just administer the life-saving antidote themselves. So there is a need for a closed loop system that can automatically and rapidly detect and deliver the life-saving antidote. It is difficult to estimate a market opportunity for something that does not yet exist. So what we did was to look at how many emergency hospitalization, not just a visit, but actual hospitalization has occurred. These emergency hospitalizations are very expensive, as you can imagine, more than $50,000 to $100,000 if the patients are in critical condition with organ failure. In 2016, there were more than 90,000 people that were hospitalized due to opioid poisoning. And assuming the cost of our system to be about $10,000, this puts the total addressable market at about $900 million. But not everyone has the ability to pay for our device. We found that about 2/3 of these hospitalized patients have insurance. This is through Medicaid, Medicare, and other private insurance. And this puts a serviceable, addressable market, available market at about $600 million. And if you can get about 1/3 of these patients by offering to save the payers, the insurance companies, money, our target market is about $200 million. And our technology is actually quite simple. It takes advantage of wearable and minimally invasive systems. It first detects opioid overdose using a wearable sensor, then it automatically triggers the drug release from a subcutaneously placed drug capsule. At the same time, it reaches out to emergency services and their caretakers so that these patients do not require critical care later on. We have 2 pending patents related to our wearable and drug delivery device with the option to license from Purdue. Our technology is a unique combination of wearable and minimally invasive device. This way, we can achieve the requirement of being unobtrusive, yet with fast response time, while delivering a large enough doses to ensure that patients do not relapse back into overdose. We kept the usability and adherence in mind by discussing with multiple potential users who has experienced overdose before. So our next step is to prepare for pre-IDE discussion with FDA. As you can imagine, with a drug device combination, we will have to navigate through a tricky FDA regulatory system. So we're looking for partners that can help develop our business further, help us navigate through FDA regulation. And we've shown promising in vivo data, but we also require additional testing. So we are looking for additional funds to help us get through the IDE approval. Finally, we're looking for some clinical partners to help us with our future clinical trials. So thanks for watching. I'd be happy to chat with you more.
I'm presenting our technology, collapsible basket array, today. So this technology is developed to enable high throughput histology analysis of 3D organoids and spheroid. The technology is co-invented with Professor Thomas Zygmunt and George Chu of the mechanical engineering at Purdue. So the drug discovery is a long and time-consuming process. Typically, 5,000 to 10,000 compounds are screened to discover one FDA-approved drug. So thus, the rapid and high-throughput screening is a critical component of drug discovery. In this context, spheroid and organoid, which are three-dimensional multicellular culture as shown in the figure, are emerging as the in vitro models for medical research and the drug discovery. So because of this need, the global market for high-throughput screening in pharmaceutical industry and federal private research labs is rapidly growing. It is expected to reach $21 billion by 2023. In addition, usage of spheroid and organoids are increasing more than 300% since 2020 in research community, as shown in the figure. However, the high throughput technology for spheroid and organoid is significantly lagging. So handling of spheroid and organoid still requires labor-intensive and slow manual process. So to address this technical gap, we developed a collapsible basket array for high throughput analysis. Specifically, the array is designed to transfer spheroid and organoids from a large multi-well plate into a small standard histology cassette by a single stroke. As shown in the figure, the array will be assembled on a multi-well plate where cells are cultured in spheroid format. After testing drug compounds, this array can transfer spheroid to a histology cassette by single stroke while maintaining the registry information as shown in the figure D. Currently, this step is performed by manual well-by-well transfer. So this video clip shows the action of our prototype. So let me play the movie. So after testing, the array will be separated from the spacer grid, which holds the array on the multi-well plate. Upon the separation, the array is spontaneously collapsed due to our special designed geometry so that the array can be fit to the standard histology cassette by a single stroke. So as you can see that it's fitting to the single histology cassette. So currently this prototype is made by multicolor 3D printing. So currently there are two competing technologies in the market. The first is called the tissue microarray. This microarray is a histology block with holes to place the tissue and spheroid samples. It is compatible with a high throughput analysis, but it still needs manual well-by-well transfer. The second technology is called the SciFlow 1000 system. This system is an insert for the multi-well plate for continuous drug perfusion. Although it is a tool for high throughput screening, but the manual transfer is not addressed. So the actual comparison summarized in the table. And both of these competing technologies are quite expensive as well. So based on the progress we made so far, our next step is now we translating into this 3D printing technology to the manufacturing phase, such as injection molding or any other mass producing manufacturing method. And then we also are pursuing integration of 3D printing of spheroid and organoid directly on the array, so we can fully automate this 3D culture as well as the drug screening and analysis process. And finally, we are looking for the industrial partner who can work with us to marketing and sales of this product. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation. I'm Dawei. Today, I'm going to present you the ITRA cloud-based SmartSync supply chain management system for humanitarian aid. The problem with the current system is that most of the NGOs are managing their operations using paper-based forms and Excel spreadsheets. There are lack of real-time inventory monitoring, which could cause fraud and no visibility of the response operations. Furthermore, it will cause inventory shortage and waste that could lead to ineffective emergency responses. And in the end, it will cause the operation not be able to reach everyone and increase mortality. Moreover, most of NGOs are not able to provide detailed donor distribution report for the donors even after 3 months of the operation, which would raise the trust issues with the donors. Therefore, we looked into the market to see if there is any solution that offered by other companies. We quickly find that most of the typical ERP systems doesn't address unique needs of the humanitarian aid operations, and most of the humanitarian logistics softwares today are either out of date or not address all the critical issues, such as generating the distribution report based on each donor account. We were invited to present this work at the Logistics Cluster meeting led by World Food Program in Washington, D.C. back in 2018. This is essentially a group of big NGOs that do humanitarian aid operations over the seas. This is a validated problem faced by most of the NGOs and their local partners. Donors are more interested in evidenced operations which needs data, and using the current system based on paper, they were not able to collect any data. In 2020, it's projected that 160 million people need humanitarian assistance. About 3,900 NGOs are managing those kinds of operations, and 1/3 are in the United States. The dollar amount spent per year on humanitarian aid by the US, managed by the USAID department, is about 20 billion per year. By UN, it's about 16 billion, and for NGOs, they spend about 16.8 billion per year. The technology we propose today is called ITRA Supply Chain Management System for humanitarian aid. It is a cloud-based, which means you can monitor all the operations in real time. It's also cross-platform, which means you can access the system from any device that has a web browser. You can access while the mobile devices are in the field, or you can monitor the operations in your headquarters offices. It works both online and offline, mostly in humanitarian relief operations in distribution sites. People do not have access to internet, so the devices can collect data, and when the devices are returned to the internet access zone, the data are pushed automatically to the platform. It has multiple functions, such as tracking the commodities from the procurement all the way to the distribution to the beneficiaries. It also has the accountability to monitor the unit price and the total amount of all the transactions. It can also report the distribution report and the monthly movement of the inventory. And it can also report the inventory levels in real time. Instead of automating the entire system, we also provide flexibility of a manual adjustment. So if there is any discrepancy spotted by the personnel, they can always do a manual adjust to override the numbers that's not correct. We looked into the market. This all-in-one solution basically covers 3 solutions: the mobile data collecting tool, the supply chain management system, and the integration to integrate the 2 previous solutions all together in one. For next step, we are looking for industrial partnerships. mainly from NGOs or government humanitarian aid agencies. And we are also open to cooperate with United Nations, such as the World Food Program or OCHA, who is managing the humanitarian aid for the United Nations. That's the presentation we offer today. Thank you.
Upstrums is using machine learning and big data to really help healthcare organizations address their patients' social determinants of health and to improve health outcomes. There are effectively 3 challenges facing the healthcare delivery system today. The first is changing payment models and accountability. Healthcare is moving from individual to population health. It's moving from volume of services to generating value. It is moving from being reactive to just sick care to moving to a proactive approach to prevention and wellness. Additionally, non-medical social risks are coming to the forefront. These are the true drivers of health. Housing, transportation, financial issues all increase utilization and cost. And lastly, the challenge is healthcare organizations are not organized to address social needs and these changing payment models. There are surveys out there, but they're labor intensive and they're not action oriented. Physicians, despite all of their good qualities and training, are not trained to deal with social determinants and social risks. Social risks are also different than clinical care because they require longitudinal follow-up and unique interventions and connections to community organizations. So what does the market need for really addressing these challenges with machine learning and social determinants? First of all, it's just huge. The market size for AI in healthcare is 21 billion. Health systems are spending tons of money on social determinants. They also spend a huge amount just around community benefits, which are related to social determinants. And within this, we're able to save costs. Through our prior work in a randomized trial with Upstrums, we're able to estimate significant cost savings that would translate to any healthcare organization. So Upstrums is a machine learning application that uses data on the real drivers of health and well-being, along with comprehensive patient information to identify patients in need of a referral to a service that actually address social risk. We take a variety of data sources, area, contextual, public health, individual level data as well, from encounters, diagnoses, medications, surveys, whatever is available. We apply machine learning algorithms to identify who should be referred to a variety of services that actually address patients' health and well-being needs. This could be social workers, dietitians, financial counseling. Our technology has been rigorously evaluated and has all of the key features necessary for success. We would put our focus on social determinants, the rigor with which we've done evaluations and published in the literature, our application of non-clinical and novel data sets, using a team that is expert in healthcare, healthcare delivery, clinical care, and social determinants. And the fact that we are completely vendor neutral means we can be in any healthcare environment. We would stack that up against any potential competitor in that space. In terms of the research we've done and the rigor of our evaluations, we've done prospective trials that have been published that showed a decrease in hospital admissions, a decrease in emergency department visits, an increase in kept appointments, and an increase in referrals when this technology is rolled out. We estimate that it could save a single hospital in the order of millions and real savings for individual patients. So what is Upstrums looking for in the next steps? We're looking for introductions to pre-seed or seed stage investors. We have phenomenal clinical partners and we're rolling out our second site, but we're always interested in expansion and looking for more partners to work with in terms of customers. We also need talent and advisors in the area of machine learning, healthcare sales, licensing, and IP. Upstrums is really focused on addressing the real drivers of health and well-being, fitting within clinical care workflows, and providing actionable information for healthcare organizations.
Hello, my name is Alex Roth, and I'd like to thank you for viewing this presentation. I'll be speaking about an ozone generating apparatus and the method for using it to treat dermal wounds. Skin and soft tissue infections are a major source of morbidity within the healthcare industry. These infections are typically treated with antibiotics, but there are a growing number of infections that are considered advanced and require some kind of additional therapy. These advanced infections are brought about by antibiotic-resistant bacteria, like MRSA, or because of chronic health conditions like diabetes that prevent wounds from healing in a timely manner. These complications often can lead to life-threatening medical conditions as well, such as sepsis or amputation. These skin and soft tissue infections are very prevalent, leading to 3.5% of all emergency room visits every year. They typically cost a patient $8,000 for treatment, which means any product that can help clinicians more effectively treat these infections, specifically the advanced category, is a very large market. The wound dressing market on its own is valued at over $9 billion in 2014, with an expected annual growth rate of 4.4% due to a continually aging population and a growing prevalence of these chronic conditions. Our invention is a portable ozone treatment system for wound therapy. We utilize gaseous ozone, which you're probably most familiar with from the ozone layer of the atmosphere. But gaseous ozone is also a very strong antimicrobial substance. That means that it is very effective at killing things like bacteria and viruses when it comes in contact with them. Our system is able to generate gaseous ozone from the ambient atmosphere, and then it is delivered through a wound patch that we have engineered to resist clogging and also to help disperse ozone across the entire wound surface as it keeps it covered. Once these ozone molecules pass through the wound dressing, they're able to interact with the bacteria that cause the infection and kill them, which will help treat the wound infection. When we compare our ozone treatment with some of the typical treatments out there, we can see why there are so many advantages. Antibiotics are very common and considered safe, but they have this issue of resistance where a lot of bacteria no longer respond to them. On a different technology called nanoparticles are very small bits of a metal such as silver or copper, and they are effective at killing off bacteria, even those that are resistive, but they're not considered safe because they often also kill off healthy cells instead of just the bacteria. Atmospheric plasma has also been used to disinfect medical equipment, but it often requires very large, bulky equipment that is expensive and also really prohibits good patient care. But our ozone treatment system is able to both be administered in a very cost-effective way. It acts very fast, and it bypasses many of these resistance bacteria while still being safe for human cells. So we would love to talk with any industry partners who are eager to help us impact the healthcare industry in this way. Our current needs include a strategic partnership in the area of medical device development and also expertise in large-scale production. We also are looking for investments that would help us further clinical studies so that we can get our medical device out on the market. If you are interested in talking more with me, I'd love to hear from you afterward. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Cole, U.S. Navy Naval Surface Warfare Center, Ian Crane, Indiana. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about a sensor-agnostic fever detection software, i.e. really a fever screener. We built this system specifically to address COVID-19 and other infectious diseases, meaning we wanted to read fevers remotely, we wanted to do it safely, and we wanted to do it instantly. The solution first focuses on the COVID-19 threat. However, it has several applications in commercial sectors, the industrial sector, and medical applications. At its core, it keeps workers safe, it keeps patients safe, and enables passive long-range remote temperature reading on stationary and moving objects. So if you're looking at a crowd, you can look at people moving or standing still and pick them up. If you're looking at lines, etc. It works both indoors and outdoors. But beyond COVID, it also has the opportunities of minimizing sick leave within a workplace by picking up fevers, sending people home who are sick with a fever or not aware of it. It helps with early tumor detection because tumors tend to bring in a lot of blood and get warm on the body. It helps with industrial food preparation, as well as quality assurance and control just overall. What makes our system unique is that it has persistent monitoring 24/7, 365 for years and years and years. It has various fields of view to meet the customer's application space, very narrow all the way up to extremely wide. We can read distances that are right up against the skin all the way out to several hundred feet. Even kilometers in many cases, just depending upon the configuration that you're running with. We essentially instantaneously take temperature at medical grade accuracy. It takes us about 0.016 seconds to measure the temperature of an object, and we do that continuously, or as slow as 33 milliseconds as well. We are precise as a medical thermometer, as mentioned before. We are sensor agnostic in order to accommodate the future application spaces of anyone who may be interested in using this. And as stated before, works on static, moving targets, both indoors and outdoors. Now, the marketplace for this overall, the medical thermometer market size was estimated to be about 256.9 million in 2019, many times more of that in 2020, but overall is expected to reach $1.8 billion by 2030. In contrast, looking at several of the other technologies that are out in the area right now, many of them have hidden and enduring costs. They specifically require personal protective equipment in order to keep patients as well as medical staff safe, i.e. they get people sick, and that causes efficiency losses for organizations. And of course, there are professional cleaning costs when somebody gets too sick, and then you have to clean up after that individual or even help them out as well. And then of course, there's the ultimate cost sink, which is the tragedy of loss of life, right? So really at the core of all this message is that a simple low-cost thermometer that may be bought online may end up costing tens of thousands, if not several millions of dollars in the long term of its operation. So let's talk about the system as a core and really what it is and what we've deployed. So in the upper left-hand corner, this is a system we deployed and is in use at a local Indiana hospital. It is the people sit safely behind the plate glass. They don't have to worry about air exchange. They are safe. The camera is fairly small, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner. We have temperature references in the middle, and we got somebody from their local IT department to simply take a picture of themselves in front of this object. Now, what the person behind the counter sees is they see the person's temperature in the upper left-hand corner, and the way they do that is they simply move the mouse over the person or the part of the person they want to measure that temperature, or they can move the mouse over one person after another and get temperature after temperature after temperature. We put a simple red dot to indicate this was where the temperature was taken on this individual to reach 97.8 degrees Fahrenheit. It was not on the inner canthus, nor was it on the temporal artery over on the side of the face. So it reads a little bit lower than we expect. However, the one thing that we do is we also show the inaccuracy within our system. And in this case, we have a 0.02 degree Fahrenheit inaccuracy. That's a 0.2, which is fantastic. The system we deployed again was 24/7, 365, had a field of view of 92 degrees. So obviously you can see you can put multiple people in front of it. Is essentially instantaneous at 0.16. Medical grade, he can move around as he has to. He can stand still. It works from 1 to 20 feet in this particular application because that's the size of the lobby. But in the upper left-hand corner, it also has industrial and commercial applications. Specifically, if you don't want to have somebody moving a cursor, you can highlight all the regions in an image which satisfy a specific temperature condition and go above that, i.e. thresholding, which is pretty fantastic. So if we compare this technology versus other technologies in the current sphere, what you see is as the government, we work with many of these technologies. We did many assessments in order to combat COVID-19 and ultimately derived this solution all over that. The first thing we looked at was speed. We want, obviously, speed to be as minimal as possible. We want it to be instantaneous so you don't slow down processes, so that you minimize queue wait times, et cetera. And then, of course, PPE requirement we felt was a fairly strong negative, because you don't want to be close to somebody. And if you're putting a thermometer in somebody's mouth, you have to have gloves, face masks, a lot of PPE in order to protect both people. And so we felt that standing off would obviously be much stronger and much better there. Of course, there is a patient and worker risk associated with each of these technologies, from low because you do have to interact with the thing, you have to make contact, which means continuous and required cleaning, using sanitary wipes, et cetera, to no contact solutions, which in many instances, those medical thermometers that you buy online, specifically, you still have to get very close and violate social distancing, right? So we evaluated in terms of risk. And then, of course, we put the costs of each of these systems down there. And then we looked at social distancing, right? Where we use smiley faces to indicate that you can stay far away from somebody and you don't really have to worry about getting people within that infectious region and zone where they could become infected themselves, i.e., obviously, if you put something in someone's mouth, i.e. oral or contact thermometers, that's pretty bad for social distancing. The wonderful thing we thought about our technology is that it was agnostic, so that as you need any different sensor, you can use that. You can make it, you really can make it customized for each customer. And then, of course, we felt a fairly strong negative was other costs. So you wouldn't just buy the system, but then you have to keep buying more and more and more things for that system, which we didn't think was very positive. So we wanted to make sure that the things that we built within the US Navy don't have those, where compared to other things do, right? So if you're interested in learning more, obviously, please create an agreement with the US Navy, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Crane, Indiana, specifically our Technology Transition Office. I put that contact information below. Please feel free to reach out to them. If you're interested in licensing this and becoming a provider of the technology, please feel free to do that as well. Pretty easy to set up a legal agreement with us. Thank you and have a good day.
The medical research universe is demanding better detection, faster sampling, and more information, but with less sample. One of the tools in most demand is flow cytometry, because it can take a blood sample and identify all of the different types of cells, as well as the products they make, and provide this information quickly. During the COVID crisis, after the virus was identified by sequencing, the first technology to identify the types of cells impacted was flow cytometry. Papers describing the complexity of the immune response were published within weeks of the first cases to be identified. Those papers outlined the causes of the cytokine storm that was a deadly result of COVID-19. But it does not stop there. The market is now demanding more than ever. Pharmaceutical companies are asking for an approach that is more qualitative. Cancer biologists want to extract cleaner signals from cells. Immunologists are demanding more parameters. Not just 10 or 20. They want 50 to 100, many more than current instruments can produce. Biochemists want to be able to evaluate metabolic probes, as well as traditional cell markers. Everyone wants to push the limits to reduce background noise. Current technology fails in all of these areas. What these folks are asking for is a new generation of cellular detection systems. This is what MIFTech is ready and capable of providing. The flow cytometry market size is large. By 2025, it is predicted to be $6.3 billion. That represents about 12,000 instruments sold per year worldwide. The medical research market, our beachhead, alone represents 1,000 instruments per year by 2025. The fastest market sector is the spectral flow market that has only 2 competitors out of the 25+ companies in the field. Over 600 instruments were sold in this category in the last 3 years. MIFTech has been developing the Cytospectrum instrument to meet all the market demands and compete headlong with competitors. Cytospectrum uses a new approach to fluorescence detection, known as single photon detection. It puts our technology into the next generation category. We innovated at every level, such as a new approach to combining lasers, a unique optical pathway for the fluidic components, and most significantly, a totally new detection technology that has been funded by the National Science Foundation. Additionally, we innovated in the electronics domain, ensuring that the data collection is the highest speed possible with the latest generation of hardware. Finally, we invested heavily to protect our IP, with 5 issued and 5 patents in progress. We didn't stop there. We interviewed over 150 scientists, executives, and users to ensure we introduced the most significant demands of the industry. We listened to their complaints about existing tools, and we responded in our technology implementation. We used their feedback to create an approach that leading-edge scientists said, "I want one." When you compare Cytospectrum to the competition, you can see we focused on the user demands, where current instruments fail. Most of the big companies are glued to old technologies they have been selling for years. Only 2 companies sell spectral instruments. But MIFTEC's Cytospectrum uses next-generation technology, which reduces our cost but also increases the options significantly. MIFTEC is looking for funding to move to the next level. We have already invested almost $2 million in non-diluted funding. We expect $1 million from the NSF in June 2021, and we need an additional $2 million to move to full testing prototype stage, which will take 18 months. We are interested in partnering with sales and marketing companies and manufacturing partners. We seek investors who see opportunity in penetrating a large international market and who can assist our organization to grow into a strong customer-oriented product developer. MIFTEC has a well-equipped operation in the Purdue Research Park and is well situated to grow rapidly with the right investment partners.
Hello, my name is Amar Flood and I am a professor of chemistry at Indiana University and co-founder together with Chris Benson of the startup business Halofor. We'd like to share an interesting new opportunity with you on fluorescence calibration standards for biomedical devices and technologies. So the problem in the marketplace is that as fluorescence-based instruments are manufactured, they have a large amount of variability in the various components that are brought together, from the light source to the optics to the collection camera, that needs to be calibrated to bring that device into tolerance before it is sent out to the customer. And there are also calibration needs once it gets into the customer's hands. The current solutions are cumbersome, slow, and costly. In essence, the variability in the instruments and the need to have a technician to go in and calibrate every single instrument uniquely every time creates bottlenecks in scaling up the manufacturing possibilities. So without a standard that exists for any of these fluorescent instruments, it is difficult to streamline any of the calibration to overcome variability, lost time, and money. The size of the market in fluorescence microscopy is about $500 million, growing even further. But there are also other industries and markets that we have identified that suggest that this could be a multi-billion-dollar market. And there are basically lost revenue from the fact that these instruments are not predictable. The future-proofing idea is also thinking about putting calibration standards in the hands of engineers as they conceive of new possible technologies that take advantage of light-based information transfer, such as LiDAR. Our technology based upon ultra-bright Halofor pigments, and there's really 2 characteristics that allow them to be set up for calibration. First, you can make it in any size or shape utilizing polymer technology, because our pigments, once they go in, they retain the colors and the fluorescence exactly as the dyes were originally designed and used in the instruments. And the fluorescence from those dyes, as is shown in the bottom part, can come in any color, and we can put any one of those dyes into these polymers in a very, very straightforward way. So with any color in any form factor, we have the basis for creating a standard. Okay, the comparison slide is a little quirky because at the end of the day, there is no other technology standard out there. What we did hear about is reflective white cards that just reflect back the LED. They are simple, not too reliable because you are not matching the fluorescence signal, which is in a different area of the spectrum. So you could prepare a dye solution, place it into a glass vial. It is simple, it is reliable to a degree, but it became, upon discussions with our couple of customers, a pain point. Whereas when you can reduce this to a polymer fluorescence standard, it's simple, it's reliable, and it's quick. And as a consequence of all that, it's scalable. You can put it in any instrument, in any place, under any condition. So the next steps for us is really to seek help in becoming an industry standard. So if there are skills from people out there in the community that can help us with that, that would be fantastic. Industry partnerships, we'd like to connect to people that use fluorescence and provide them with opportunities to try out these standards. And so we can think about ways that we would interact with the instrument makers. It could be in production. It could be in diagnostics at the early stage as they develop hardware. And it also facilitates with standards the opportunity to make meaningful comparisons between instruments. So instrument makers would be a really good group of people to connect to. And for investors, we're really looking at the pre-seed stage of scale up. So with that, I look forward to, and Chris and I look forward to meeting with you and discussing these opportunities. Thank you very much.